everybody, what's up my channel? It's your friendly neighborhood sassy blonde writer coming at you with another writing video. Today we are doing a little discussion. It is, what is art? Can art be subjectively good? A little backstory here. The backstory is a little weird. I recently got involved in a discussion in like the comment section of like a Facebook post. It started off as a different type of discussion and then somehow turned into a discussion on what is good art and what is bad art. And one of the main questions that kept coming up, or not so much question as like comment, I guess, is art subjective or is art objective? How can you say something is good objectively or something is bad objectively? And I talk about this a little bit when I talked about my beta reading feedback, because I specifically said that I didn't want any subjective feedback on if you liked it or you didn't like it. I wanted objective feedback on my skills and craft as a writer. And I mean, if you watched my video on is writing a skill or a talent, I mean, you probably can predict what my answer is gonna be, but you're probably not gonna predict why. So stay tuned, don't leave yet, don't go. So what's funny is, what sparked this debate was Twilight. Right? Book from 10 years ago, and it still sparks such debate. Somebody said that Twilight trashed, and then somebody else said, that's your opinion, I love Twilight, don't say it's a trash book. Then somebody else said, no, it's objectively trash. And then they started critiquing Stephanie Meyer as a writer, and her skills as a writer, blah, 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 blah. And then someone else said, that's just your taste as a writer, it's a good story. And then like it just turned into a discussion that was kind of heated back and forth, and then it turned into a question of like, what is art, what is good storytelling, what's the difference between like technique and craft, and what's the difference between taste, which is subjective, and just good art, which is it objective, is it subjective, who can say? So here we are. If you're new to this channel, welcome to the Sassy Blonde Writer channel. I like to do different videos on different writing topics. Sometimes I talk about my views on different writing questions, and I bring up different counterpoints, so it kind of just turns into me doing a monologue. Sometimes I discuss different tropes and analyze their evolution throughout the ages, and sometimes we just talk about writing tips and tricks that I've learned as I've written. Anyway, so in a previous video, we discussed whether or not art is a skill or a talent, and the difference between skills and talent. I'm going to link to the video down below and up in the cards, so if you want to check out that video where we discuss the differences between skills and talent. And so basically, skills are something that you can develop over time towards something, and a talent is where you just start doing something and it comes naturally to you. You don't really have to work at it as much immediately to get to like a certain level at first. That doesn't mean that you don't have to work at it, it just means that it came easily to you when you were a beginner. So if we consider art as something that is a skill, not a talent, then if we're going with that argument, then there are areas of objective strengths and weaknesses that you can have. So with any creative or artistic skill, it's usually a mix of the following. You have technique, which are the skills that allow you to literally do the thing. Those are also known as the technical skills. So like for musicians, it's literally how you play the instruments. Or if you're a singer, it's using breath support and diction while singing. Or if you're a painter, it's literally how you hold the paintbrush and dip it into paint and paint. Like it's literally technique you use to create it. For writers, it would be stuff like grammar, subject-verb agreement. Those are the technical skills. Syntax, literally putting together a sentence, etc., etc. Making sense so far? So those are your technical skills. Those are the skills that you use to literally do the thing. And of course, you can have strengths in those. You can have really strong grammar skills, and you can have pretty weak skills when it comes to syntax. Maybe you write a lot of run-on sentences. Maybe you have really short, clippy sentences. That's something you've got to work on. After technical skills, we have use of craft or expression. So craft is the application of different higher concepts. It is the writer's intentional use of different techniques to create an effect for the reader. So if technical skills are the different specific note, craft is the overall melody of the song. It's how you put it all together. So for musicians, it would be adding expression or maybe improvising. If you're an actor, it would be how you set the scene or bring emotion to a role. If you're a painter, it would be how you blend the colors together and use your knowledge of what a sunset looked like when you were on the beach one day to put together that sunset that you're painting. And if you're a writer, it would be like using hyperbola to show characterization or using irony for humor. Craft is a really important skill to have. It's one of those things, it's not as tangible. It's hard to kind of pin down exactly what it is, which is why I think it kind of gets glossed over as a skill, but it is a skill and you can improve with regards to your craft. How you plot out a story and structure a story is a part of author's craft that you can develop as a skill. It's not something you either have or you don't, and if you don't have it, then well, you will never learn. Obviously, you can learn it. And then the third thing is you just have that little flair that you as the creator add. So that flair is whatever you bring to the table that only you can do. The flair is what makes it unique. So for singers, that flair is your specific voice. My voice does not sound like Renee Fleming's voice, and that's totally fine. That's what I bring to the table as a singer. My writing voice is also what I bring to the table. So the flair is the subjective part. I know I kind of rambled a little bit. Let's bring it back to something a little bit more tangible. So I'm sorry in advance, everything's gonna come back to food for this video. I think of art sort of like different challenges in the Great British Baking Show. In each episode of the Great British Baking Show, the amateur bakers are given 3 challenges based on whatever the week's theme is. So you have this signature bake where they get to show off their craft and they get to come up with the recipes that's based off of their experience, their background knowledge, and that's where they get to show off their craft as a baker. And they get to pick whatever they want to make within the theme. Then you have the technical challenge where they, guess what, get to show off their technical skills. And then you have the showstopper. The showstopper is where they get to add their flair and they get to show off things that they are really good at that the person next to them might not be so good at. So if they're really good at making macaroons or whatever, then they're going to make sure that they include macaroons in whatever their showstopper is. I hope that makes a little bit more sense. So there are basically 3 areas of art. That's how I like to think of it. And the first 2, you have the craft skills and the technical skills. Those are more tangible things that are more objective, because you can learn author's craft. You can learn how to apply irony to create humor in your stories. You can learn how to plot better to improve your author's craft for storytelling. That is something that's objective. You can improve characterization, you can improve your grammar, you can level up your writing with parallel structure or whatever. Those are objective things that your story can have or not have, and a lot of times little changes along the way are all you have to make to really just kick it up a notch, really level it up as a writer. However, that third element, the flair, that some people like and some people don't like. For example, bringing it back to the Great British Baking Show, a lot of times 2 judges, Paul Hollywood, Mary Berry, or sometimes Prue Lies, don't like just the flavor combination. One time it was like Japanese desserts week, and Paul Hollywood doesn't like matcha. He's not a fan of the taste. So when he tasted somebody's matcha tea cakes or whatever, I forget exactly what it was. So he had to leave his personal feelings about their flair, what they brought to the table, because they like matcha. That's their taste, which is subjective. He doesn't, which is also subjective, but he wasn't going to let his personal taste get in the way entirely of whether or not they got to go forward or not. If they baked something that looked amazing and was baked properly and showed off their different technical skills and their craft as a baker. I hope this is all making sense. This is definitely making me very hungry. So the thing is that art can objectively be good by the first 2 measures. For example, Citizen Kane, which I have right here. Citizen Kane is considered one of the greatest movies of all time because of its use of characterization, because of the way it uses different camera techniques. The pacing is really good, especially for an older movie, because older movies tend to drag. It moves very quickly. The script, the writing is very tight, and the acting is also very good. That's why Citizen Kane is considered one of the greatest movies of all time. I can still say that it's one of the greatest movies of all time. However, do I consider it one of my favorite movies? No. One of my favorite movies of all time? Probably Clue. But again, that's my personal taste. So the reason why art gets tricky to discuss objectively is because a lot of times people let their personal opinions and their personal tastes get in the way of how they feel about something. If you enjoyed this video and you want more discussion-y type videos or to know my thoughts on different topics, hit that like button so I get some engagement. That would be totally awesome. And of course, happy writing.